So welcome to Teddy Talks. We are today at Ana Roche here in Kobarit in Slovenia, one of the most famous chef and most successful chef, and a quite interesting story. So we want to dig a little bit deeper to learn more about you.
Okay, amazing.
And it's our second time here. I was here 2 years ago with my fiancée. It was one of our first dates. We have very positive memories because we believe
Because you're still together.
Yes, we're still together. And because we always say that in life only two things matter, that's love and food. And I heard a very nice quote from you that you said, love is crucial, and if you don't love, it's difficult to work well. So is this your philosophy of your work, to put in the love in your work?
Well, I believe that maybe love is also related to passion.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly think that if you don't love or have passion for what you do, you'll always do it halfway. So sometimes I get the question, how is it possible, like in 15 years from zero, self-taught and so on, to get to, I don't know, title of best female chef. And I always say it's because I have put passion inside and love, and this made me struggle and made me open so many questions. I was curious.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't have these feelings, you always remain somewhere back.
But you can feel that when we have been here, like you can feel the love in your food and you can feel the love in your people, because it's very cozy home feeling here.
You know, yesterday late, like at 2:30 in the morning, after the service, I sat down with sommelier and my chef, and Alan said, you know, I still don't understand how to wake up the passion in everyone in the service. And we actually discussed the passion. And then the chef said, you know, can I talk to your people today? And I guess they're just on the briefing now. Because he said in the kitchen we have the exact opposite problem. People are so passionate, they don't see left and right. They're completely into that. They're completely loyal and dedicated to the house. They're dedicated to every single item they have to put on. And they're passionate. But passion is something you can't give to people.
No, you have it or you don't. You can wake it up. You can wake
exactly.
it up.
So I believe that generally looking, this house has a lot of passionate people, and those which are not passionate are not going to resist for a long time, because living here on a countryside between, I don't know, in forest between cows and sheep requires a lot of passion to stay.
It's a beautiful place, and you mentioned a little bit your career. You started as a professional skier, then you had an accident, and you wanted to become diplomat, and then you ended up in this beautiful hospitality industry. What from your two former careers or paths of work of life, from the professional sport and from the diplomat, what could you take into this?
Well, everything. I believe whatever we do in our life designs us somehow, and I am on one side like I have a discipline and focus from sport. I also, you maybe don't know, I was also almost professionally into dance, and when I stopped skiing, I wanted to study dance in Paris. I was doing contemporary and classical dance. More contemporary classical was in a function of contemporary dance. And there we had a lot of improvisations. So there was a creative part, which is also very important in our business. And then, and of course, it is about, I'm not saying studying diplomacy, but studying always means having large horizons, that you have more global perspective of the world. I could have been studying mechanical engineering, let's say, but being a student, I think, is such an important thing in our life. So you get your responsibilities, you decide whether you are interested in studying or not. You're hanging around with young intellectual people, you build up your point of views, and I believe that the best chefs of the world in this moment are actually people who are very opinionated and who have very large horizons. You have more and more self-taught chefs who are like top chefs that we are talking about. So I think our success or whatever we do is a patchwork of whatever has been happening to us. So I would say that everything matters.
So how important was your family on this journey? Because you read a lot of interviews that there was like a kind of not clash, but there was a disappointment in your family that you stepped outside of the planned career, you started in hospitality. So how supportive have they been, or how do you see that now?
You know, I have very intellectual parents. My mother was a journalist, my father a doctor, and they both come from, my mother from aristocratic family, my father from I can say intellectual family. So they were, of course, a lot more using the brain than the hands. So imagine in the beginning of the 21st century, a girl saying to the parents in a country where gastronomy has no meaning, in a country where in schools probably the teachers would say to a student that has excellent notes who says, I want to study gastronomy, he would send him to a psychiatrist saying something's wrong with him because he should be a doctor or lawyer. In the time where at schools, those with worst grades that were like basically with low IQ would be those that the gastronomy schools would be taking in. In that period, a girl says to her mom, hey, I'm giving up my diplomatic career, I'm going to cook. So first, I know that both of my parents knew how much I struggled to finish the university. Not to finish it, I had excellent grades. But imagine I was studying in Italian language. I had 5 languages there, I had 50 exams, out of which every exam was like books and books and books. And since the university was hosting a lot of outside ambassadors and so on, sometimes we had like 2 weeks of lessons, exam right away. There was no sleeping over. It was very intense for years. When a parent knows how much a child struggled to do something and he should be proud of it and abuse it, that child says to you, hey, I'm giving up on what I just accomplished and I'm like going to work in a countryside where there was nothing at the time. There was no tourism, there was no infrastructure, there was no good hotel, not a good another restaurant. There was nothing you could point on and say this girl is going to succeed. And so, of course, I can understand the misunderstanding of the parents. And I think, especially with my father, it has been very, very tough. Because I think he's very close to me, so he just didn't want to accept. But then his mother stepped in and she was like, hey, be adult. I mean, she's an adult girl, so she can decide for herself. And when the success started happening, my father became very, very supportive, and he actually, I think, saw it coming. While my mom, I think, since she's really from like aristocratic families, where I don't know, in those kind of families, the work I'm doing now is a kind of like low-class job. For my mother, that is maybe still not acceptable today. There is a legendary story that happened in Sri Lanka when we went on a yoga holiday. And we were like in a yoga retreat, only young people and very spiritual, very, very beautiful. Like somewhere lost in the forest of Sri Lanka, and we were dining, and there is a girl who stares at me, and I was like, no, I saw it coming. I was like, no. She came to the table and said, are you Anna Roche? And I kick my mother under the table. I'm like, shut up. And my mom is like, yeah, she is. And then she looks at my mom and says like, how is it to have such a famous daughter who is such an amazing cook? And my mom is like, she's not a cook, she's a chef. And I was like, oh my God, here we are. No, but honestly, like I adore my mom, and I admire her because she's one of the wisest persons on earth. She's very specific, very really, and I can understand her frustration. But I think we are proud of each other. But deep in her heart, she would rather see me being a diplomat.
Funny. But you just said, I think you put Slovenia on the map. Slovenia is a very small country, basically established itself from a bigger country, what had a fall down, and there is no gastronomic scene. And you put it on the map, and a lot of chefs followed you now, and you put this valley or this village here on the map. How do you feel this responsibility of that for these upcoming young chefs? You see yourself isolated, or you work together? Or how you see your role here in this country?
I was just talking to one Slovenian journalist a few days ago. There is such a funny situation. When I go abroad, people say to me in the United States, there is only two famous Slovenians, Melania Trump and Ana Roš. You go to Russia and they say, well, there is two things we know about Slovenia. One is a famous rock band and the other one is me. So you go to Netherlands and everybody is like, whatever we know about Slovenia is you and your beautiful valley. So, and sometimes, people say to me, but does the country, I'm talking about the foreign world, does your country realize how important you are for them?
Do they?
Okay, and then the answer. So there are two poles. There is a intellectual pole, like journalists and so on, but not gastronomic journalists. That's the funniest story. Talking about economy journalists or foreign policy journalists. Whenever something happens around us, you have pages of philosophical research on how much we influence and how much we help Slovenia. Not only for the recognition, but to make it see from the outside world as a stable, interesting country which has a kind of evolution, because gastronomy is a kind of a long hand of the evolution herself. Where there is prosperity, there is a good gastronomy. In a poor world, people eat simple food. So let's say last year, all Slovenian journalists needed to, 700 of them, needed to nominate the most influential Slovenians for 2017, and then the editors-in-chief did the final list, and the first 6 were sports people, number 7 Melania Trump, 8 was the president, 9 was me, and then followed by Slavoj Žižek or whatever, very important people. So that is a picture for who knows my work, but the reality is how the Slovenians or even my colleagues see the things, or what is the worst, the food journalists is whichever interview I give in Slovenia, so in our country, there is a huge tsunami after that, because I'm very honest and I say things as they are, and but it's important because first, we are in a country of free speech. Second, only if we realize where our problems are, we can go on. If we say, we are the best, tomorrow we are dead. So after every interview, there is a tsunami of negative comments. And imagine after Hisa Franko made it to the 50 best list last year, I did a long interview for Slovenia National Television, and there were 50 typed pages of negative comments, so that a very famous Slovenian radio journalist did a radio show lasting 20 minutes on the comments of people on my work. It's brutal. It's brutal. But the worst, and this is really what hurts, is what is going on in our community. So I'm talking about industry. We have ambitious, super interesting young chefs, which are for whom Hisa Franko is the train to future. And we love each other. Like, I'm so supportive towards them. I'm sending all my journalists to my colleagues, and that's one community. But then you have a community of old-fashioned food journalists, and you have a community of chefs. I call them wannabe chefs, who are like still feeding themselves. With that it's better she's not successful. It's better she's dead. I mean, and I'm never saying like I'm the best. I'm trying to share my success with everyone else, and I'm trying everyone to jump on this train, because if everybody's on this train, the train will be faster, no? And but the worst is really like when a journalist says, well, but it's not only her. There are so many well-known, international well-known chefs in Slovenia, and then some foreign journalists is like, who? And they're like, and it hurts. It hurts not because I'm one of the most humble persons in the world, and I really love working, and I love, doing what I'm doing, and I'm not asking for success. The Hisa Franko is today talked about because we work well, and I'm more than welcome for everyone to join me.
You can feel that.
Last year we did, to close the month of all assholes, we did on January 6th, it was Sunday evening, we opened the restaurant, we closed for the guests, we opened the restaurant for 120 people. I'm talking about, we invited all Slovenian chefs, all Slovenian food journalists, we invited wine producers, whoever is commenting on our work and has never been in this house. There are food journalists who have never been here, and they're talking negative about us. There are my colleagues that have never been here, and they're like, why always her? And I'm like, come here, come and see what we're doing. And we actually did an amazing dinner, standing dinner with 25 courses, out of which 3 courses had been plated and served in the kitchen. So we organized everyone to like 6 or 8 groups. And they saw us working, plating, the focus. They talked to my chefs. And after that, one of the journalists said, like, what a brilliant move. But it was not because I want to be liked, but how can you talk bad about me when you don't know what I'm doing? You just read my interviews, but do you know, I mean, probably I'm not asking for the interviews. I have too many of them, but people are interested in what I'm doing. So come see and then judge. And I think we just said we will do it 2 times per year. So yeah, maybe it will help. Idea. It's very Slovenian. It's very mountain philosophy. You know, if the neighbor has bigger and fatter cows, it would be better if those cows just die. And because everybody hungry, it's better. So living in this world and working in this world means opening so many doors every single day. Also because we have no food infrastructure. Infrastructure is a good food critic, a good wine critic if you want. It is a foodie. It is a very honest and serious guide. It is, if you want, Michelin guide. All these things are the infrastructure for the restaurant business. We are still young and we have a lot to do.
I want to talk a little bit about your family life, because you work together with your husband, who I think actually that was the restaurant of their family, and you took it over together with him. How is it to work and live together? How much burden that is, and how much you separate your private life from the day-to-day business life? Because you share the ups and downs of this restaurant, you share the ups and downs of the critics, you have 2 kids, I guess. I think
2 years,
two kids. How you separate that? Because I also grew up in a not comparable restaurant, but restaurant where my parents worked all the time, and it's difficult to integrate the private life. How you manage that?
Now it is maybe even more difficult than at the beginning. At the beginning, we somehow decided that even if we bankrupt, we go on backpacking holidays 2 times per year. And so we took children and we spent out of the restaurant, out of the valley for 40 days together. We traveled the whole Vietnam, Burma, Madagascar. and those moments made us, feel family as an important nucleus in which could resist all the pressures of the restaurants then. Of course, then came a moment the children grow up so much.
How old are they now?
Almost 15, 1 and 16. That, we couldn't go to Thais for 45 days anymore, and the restaurant business grew, so you can't close the restaurant so much time. And I think this I see it as a travel. We still travel, but we can afford to go for 2 weeks and not more. And I miss this family struggle, to understand how the family really works. Because if the family is strong, then you can resist all the pressure of everyday life. But the family can be only strong when you give her time and dedication, and then automatically the roles are taken. So I believe, but in every industry is the same, that a couple which works together should learn how to, take a lot of time out of the business, out of the house, away, with phones around, with computers turned off, and force yourself not to talk business, because it's very difficult. Even when you're closing the light, you're like, oh, Jesus Christ. But it's always about work, because it just somehow penetrates into you.
Especially when you're passionate.
Well, we live in the same house where we work, and this means from when you wake up to when you fall asleep, you actually just work. So of course, you have no instinct from outside which you should discuss, and even with children on the table, you discuss business. So I think it's a hard work, but it is an important work. To learn to teach yourself how to avoid talking business all the time, but especially thinking business all the time.
How you raise your kids? I mean, in terms of we talked about you had these different careers, and then you taught yourself everything about cooking by yourself. It was kissed awake by your passion and by meeting your husband. How much is this like a benchmark for your kids? So how you raise them in kind of to free their spirit and to free their careers or their thoughts, what they like to be, because you're quite an unusual career. So
So honestly, I have no clue what's going to happen in this house, let's say in 20 years, when I don't want probably to cook anymore, or 25, because I'm not really sure if either of them is interested in this. So since my husband has been brought up in this house, in the restaurant, almost sleeping on the floor of the kitchen, and then at the age of 12 had to start helping, because there was a period, you never knew how many guests you're going to have. So of course the first labor was your teenage son, and all 3 children somehow started hating the restaurant. The restaurant was a burden. This is how Eva, Clara and Svit, we honestly tried hard, and we succeeded not to make them see our work and the restaurant as a burden. So they are very light here inside. They love being here. They have family meals with us. They get friends with the team. So I hope, honestly, that this may somehow make them decide, but we never talk about that they love what we are doing, because they see me working a lot, but they see me also as a successful woman. Their friends at school want to have all the autographs of your mom, and Sweet is like, oh my God, you want the autograph of my mom, but just my mom. And they're like, but she's famous. And it's little things. They see me as a little hero, but I also really take care of them
as a mother.
Yeah, so let's say yesterday I came late for dinner service because I was waiting and cheering at their athletic competition. There is another thing, they do a lot of sports, and with sports they're growing in a little bit more responsible and mature way. They have trainings every day, and then at least one competition per week. sometimes we talk about their future, and they have dreams, and I love that. So I will never stop them. The restaurant gave them really a lot. I think a lot of people say, "Oh, and poor children, their mom is always working." I'm like, what is better? To be in this international environment, they have almost sisters in the team and uncles in those that are with us for a long time. Sometimes Sweet has the exam, I don't know, in geography. He comes down and there is one of them who sits down and makes like question answers. And I mean, maybe because I'm not even jealous and I see them as my property, like we all share them somehow. And they have an amazing social intelligence. I mean, usually people are stroke, but by their personalities. And they're very, very, very independent. They are maybe not the best at school, but very good. But whatever they do is theirs. It's no mom like doing their homeworks or... So I believe for life this is good, whatever they're going to do. And if no one stays here, I mean, that's life.
Nice.
We will find out what to do with the house.
Let's talk about the book you mentioned before, and also your mom mentioned yesterday or this morning to us, because we stayed in your house, that she uploaded the picture. So what can you expect from the book? What will it be about, or what can you share already?
So
what's your
the
vision
book is
about
going to be published next year with Phaidon, so English-American publishing house. It's one of the, I think, 4 monographies they do every year. So I just spoke to the editor of Phaidon a few days ago, and she said, like, I send you texts that you somehow start correcting, because I wrote the book myself. At the end, it's going to be 3/4 written directly by me and directly in English, and 1/4 is made by the Slovenian journalist who also wrote directly in English. The reason why in English is, maybe my English is not perfect, but I can express myself very well, and I didn't want to be translated, because a lot of things are lost in translation. Because as the editor of Phaidon says, I've never seen something like that. It's going to be a completely different, incredible book. Now, the reason is because I'm actually explaining my food through my life. And it's a very honest book where I speak about all my ups and downs in my life. So it goes through stories. Let's say the chapter Hotel Mu, which is a chapter about the diary, is all the dishes, all the philosophy is presented through my memories of passing. Oh, thanks. Of passing my childhood in with my father, who is a hunter but a doctor. So shepherds' houses have always been open. I was sleeping on the grass, having my first allergic attack, listening to my parents drinking wine and making frika, smelling frika, and this opens you a never-ending memory of, you know, how the shepherd's house really smells, and how I reintegrate this into the food. So the whole book is a kind of like storytelling that automatically brings you to a conclusion why I'm cooking the way I'm cooking now. Honestly, I would like finally to have in my hands a chef's monography, which is readable, which you love reading, but you're reading not because someone is technically explaining you some things, but because I'm often asked, why do you cook the way you cook? Because my kitchen is different. I cook the way I cook because I'm like that, because I have a very strong personality. But my personality is a result of whatever happened to me in my life. If I was brought up in that village by 2 farmers, I would probably be very different.
100%.
So the book is about that. It's very juicy. It's very, very juicy. So I said maybe next book that I do, I just got the idea in Poland now. Somebody remembered me about the erotic book that was published recently, and that was happening in Hisa Franko. It was going on in Hisa Franko, and I was like, because
What book is that?
it's a Slovenian book. I forgot the name. It's not really the best, but like when you have like the erotic book which is going on in Hisa Franko and nobody tells you about that before, it's a kind of incredible. So I said, hey, but we can do a good food erotic book next time. So I was dying of laughter to have this idea. We could actually do it.
So I'm curious about the book.
No, let's first publish the first one.
I read, because you became best female chef in the top 50 restaurant, then I read an interview by yourself. You said that you see yourself 7 out of 10 you achieved so far. So you created yourself as 7 out of 10, at least that was the answer I read. Why are you so strict to yourself and give you a 7?
Did you meet my father?
Yes.
That's the answer.
Okay.
He's the same. He is 75 and he is still waking up every day at 6, does his exercise, then he takes his walking shoes and makes like 2 hours of sweating in a steep mountain. Of course, he's 75 and looks like he was 45. And honestly, he is so strict towards himself and others that it's sometimes really painful. There is a story how he brought hunting a very famous French journalist, and so of course my father is fit and he eats like the smallest cat you've ever seen. So this journalist, after 2 days of hunting with my father in the mountain, came down completely destroyed. He was like, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, and I can't walk. And I was like, yeah, you met my father. Okay. No, I'm less strict than him, and I have a lot of how do you say, weak points. Mm-hmm. And I know that I have weak points, but yeah, there is a strong part of my father in me.
Mm. When you look back now, how much of what you achieved you think is hard work, what sounds a lot when I listen to you, and how much is luck? You think you can measure that somehow?
Mm-hmm.
What will be your...
So, I think lazy people never have good luck.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good luck doesn't just come. You deserve good luck. So honestly, we've been working hard. We've been working so hard not to get into any of the lists, not to have 3 Michelin stars, or to have a team of 40 people, which is working here now. But we simply had to survive. We inherited this house, Walter did. We put in the first 3 years, probably €1 million in a valley where there was nothing, no infrastructure. There was an Austrian guest who said to me, and now it's already 2 million probably, no partners, no investors, and the big responsibility because it's a family house, so you can't just say I give up. There was an Austrian guest, I remember the first or second year after we renovated, and he was sitting inside, and he was after meal, and he said, Jesus Christ, you're brave. He said, but I don't think we can make it. There is nothing around. He said, there is no another restaurant. There is no, you know what is the infrastructure for like when you want a food destination to happen? More good restaurants, more good hotels. Mm-hmm. I mean, you don't go to one place, or if this is not Noma or Faviken, which, do 1,000 kilometers just to eat, sleep and go away. If this is Noma or Faviken, or today maybe Hisa Franko. So, we needed to deliver quality service, believe in our philosophy, because we needed people to come. Here around, as you see, I mean, we have a lot of forest, a lot of animals, but very little people. And people are not used to fine dining. So I would say we worked hard, but we had good luck. Good luck was meeting right people in the right time. Timing is very good. Mm-hmm. Good luck must not happen right away. But I honestly think maybe I met them that year, but I would probably meet them year after. So good luck is important, but what is most important is a struggle. Also because if you only have good luck, you will fail after that. Mm-hmm. Because, the walls are not stable enough. But when you're slowly building and then you have good luck when the house stands already, good luck is never going to ruin the house.
When I interviewed Dario, a common friend of ours, he talked about the struggle and the crisis and the original meaning of the crisis, that each crisis is an opportunity to race out and do it differently.
Or you know what I say, failure and doubt are the engine of progress. Mm. I'm a super doubtful person. Whatever I do, I'm like super sure it's not going to work. And then I need like the input of other people's opinion to understand whether it is really good or not. And I still doubt. I go to sleep and I'm like, but that goat kid with soul, I don't know. Like, and then sometimes the creative moment starts towards like waking up in the morning when I'm like, Eureka, I have it. So I get there but it's because I'm doubting and because I also fail. I failed so many times in my life and I accept it and I see it. It's true. He's right.
Thank you for your time. I want to, at the end, it's very risky because you're very honest and you're a great chef.
But I'm a ketchup and mayonnaise lover.
I know, I read that, so I'm more safe now. We cook a ketchup in Tuscany because I traveled the world and I didn't find a good ketchup. There was only Heinz, and I thought in a world where food evolves, it must be possible to do a great ketchup. So we cook a ketchup in Tuscany, in Castaneto Carduccio. We bought an old brand called Curtice Brothers. And the biggest difference is that we put in real vegetables, so we cook out of the vegetables.
Oh my god, it's amazing.
Oh, that's
I
nice.
would make it a bit spicier maybe, but because I like spicy
We
food.
do now a chili one for this summer. It's 30 times more chili, and we source everything, like you, we source everything in 15-kilometer radius from there. So it's a lot of apples in there because we don't put cornstarch. Very low sugar, it's only 6% sugar to keep it stable. A lot of ginger, onions, garlic, chili.
Is it ginger?
Yes. We try with the ginger and the balsamico to a little bit reduce the vinegar because normally the ketchup is very vinegarish. So we try with the ginger to fake that a little bit to still have the balance between the sweet and the sour. And then the hotels because
Can I keep it?
Yeah, you have more for you. So this is also for you. And then the hotels forced us to do a mayo, what is much more tricky because we're purely organic. We don't put in any stabilizer. So this is a straightforward mayo, very high egg content, and it was very tricky because we wanted.
But egg or egg yolk?
Egg yolk, but we wanted to do free range, and everything what we found was like free range, but it never really walked outside. So we tried a lot to find a farmer in Piedmont. So this is in Tuscany, this is in Piedmont. And do it like straightforward mayo, but I heard you love mayo, so I'm a little worried about that. Like that.
My dad is really
safe.
That's better than Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy is from the industry our benchmark because I really think it's a great.
It's an amazing mayo.
It's an amazing mayo, and we really try to be.
Hide it. You know how I met my husband?
Yeah,
because of the mayonnaise.
No, I didn't know that. I thought you met him here serving you the wine, he said.
Yeah, before the wine was the mayonnaise. So I came for dinner with my parents and I said like, I'm not having any starter because I'm on diet. I just like to have a trout. And he said like, okay, so since you're on a diet, would you like to have like steamed trout? And I said, is there any other option? He said, yeah, grilled or with almonds. Mm-hmm. And I said, I take the one with almonds. Do you have some mayonnaise to bring me together? And apparently he went to the kitchen. He was like, there is an asshole outside. She says she's on diet, but she's ordering mayonnaise with a trout with almonds. And you know what? I'm famous for that. Like, I go out and like when I'm simple dining and I'm always, do you have some mayonnaise for me?
That's funny. So we're really looking forward to be here tonight. We're coming with 11 friends to share love and food here. So we'll have a nice afternoon now walking somewhere. Your parents recommended some easy tracks for us and then we come tonight to have
amazing.
dinner.
Are you going to have some lunch?
Yeah, but I think we just have some cheese and prosciutto in the house to keep it light.
Be ready because the menu is, all in all, it's around 22 courses. Mm-hmm. It's a complex menu and it's really very rich and complex. So don't come hungry because that's the worst, but come prepared.
We come. And I give you the teddy bear to remember. I tell you the story, just a short story. I met Andy Holzer. He's a blind mountain climber. He's Austrian. And he did a speech about how he overcomes fear to climb a mountain when you're blind. And then they said to him it was a very impressive speech, but then in the Q&A, people said to him, and it's amazing, are you never scared or afraid? And he said, sure, when I was like 6-7 years old and was a boy, he grew up in an Austrian village because his father was very stubborn. When he grew up, the priest and the mayor came to the father and said, you need to give this boy away, you cannot raise him in this village, very dangerous. We don't have schools to really teach a blind boy. And how we protect him, it's going right and left down the cliffs. And the father said, no, I will not give him away, I will raise him as I would raise a normal boy, and that's why he took him hiking. But anyway, the son came to the father when he was 6-7 years old and said, Father, I'm so scared when I open a door, I don't know what is behind. I enter the room and it could be like dangerous things in there, and I could hurt myself, or it could be ghosts or demons, I don't know. And Father, you need to understand, because you see what is in there, but I don't see. And the father told him, I don't know why you're afraid and why you only see the dangerous things what could be behind the door. It could be a room full of teddy bears. You could see the positive things what are hiding behind your fear. And I took this story, I started writing a kids book of that. It's called The Teddy Bears Everywhere. And all these interviews, that's why it's called Teddy Talks, are about this positive feeling and this overcoming of fears. And you get this teddy bear to remember.
What a great story. And how old is he now?
He's around 55. He's still hiking. Funny enough, they're hiking together. There's 2 blind mountain climbers. One is American. He taught him and him. He did all the 5,000, so they're very famous. And it's really.
But they go out alone.
Yeah, they have protection somehow, like they have a team accomplishing them, but most of the time they're really alone. They feel it, they do a lot of memorizing big time, but both of them grew up with very stubborn fathers who just took them hiking. And he talked a lot about his father, and it seems really like the father ignored the fact that the son is blind.
You know, this reminds me of a story because it's a bit the way I was raising my children.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't so much stubborn as it was believing that if you have a problem, you can fight it over. And it was the fact that my son is allergic.
Mm-hmm.
And already when he was like 3 months old, you could see, that's very rare actually, you could see, here already the first signs and so on. And then by the 2-year time, he actually had this allergy march of March, they say, allergy march of eggs and milk,
mm-hmm.
and then it kept on just going worse and worse. And my father is a doctor, and he actually treats, as a pulmonologist, he was treating allergies his whole life. And he was washing my brain and remove all the carpets and remove everything from the house, and no dogs and no cats, and then he needs to go under the pills, and then no food, this and this and this. And there was a moment I said, wait a second, is this a happy child? This is impossible. And he still was suffering, but the allergies have been just adding and adding and adding. And there was a moment I went to his pediatrician, and I was I made a decision. I'll expose the boy to his problems. And she said, look, I'm giving you the green light, even if as a doctor I shouldn't say yes. And my father didn't even know about this experiment. And last time when I told him what I did, he was just silent. And we needed 3 years, Sweet today. Not only is eating everything, he has beautiful skin. He actually made his body stronger by facing whatever was disturbing him, and but somehow it's unique, because I wasn't told by doctors that actually this is possible. Because everybody was just saying, and more pills and more pills and more medicines, and I was like, stop, I can't do it to this boy. And today Sweet is he has asthma,
mm-hmm.
but he is a national champion in running. So little things that I was like, no, I'm not giving up, why should I? But not that I forced him, I just supported him, and I wasn't scared of it.
You showed him the teddy bears.
I know, I'll give him the teddy bear. That's for Sweet.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
It was
See
a
you
pleasure.
tonight.
Thank you.
Ciao.